Anna accuses Kate of manipulating James to leave her. James insists that he only loves Kate. This is when Anna turns her attack on Kate, claiming she doesn't understand her own husband, and restricts him from being himself, whether it's about not letting him eat what he wants, stopping him from making blue fireworks, or keeping him from playing soccer. Anna shows Kate pictures of meals shared between her and James, saying each photo represents a day they spent together. Kate, however, just scoffs. Anna may think she's won, but she doesn't realize that Kate stopped James from eating big dinners because, at just over 30, he already had moderate fatty liver disease. While James and Anna were indulging, Kate was the one worrying about his health, even fasting alongside him every night. Kate then tells Anna that if she wanted to get calculative, all those meals, hotel stays, and the rent for Anna's apartment were paid for with their joint money. Kate could demand her to pay it back, but Anna is left speechless, her face turning red with anger. She then reveals a tattoo of a blue firework on her chest, as a final insult to Kate. This shatters Kate once again. James had always claimed that his fireworks and his love were dedicated to her, but now she sees it was all a lie. Broken, Kate returns home, locking herself in the bathroom and drowning her sorrows in alcohol. Emma and Ginny, worried, stand outside trying to comfort her, reminding her she's done everything she could. After Kate passes out drunk, Emma and Ginny help her into bed. Meanwhile, Emma gets an unexpected call from Nicole, the young director. Nicole had crashed her car into the curb, blown a tire, and demanded Emma come to change it and take her to the hospital. Though annoyed by the unreasonable request, Emma decides to help. After Nicole gets her neck braced at the hospital, she insists that Emma take her to karaoke with friends and drive her home after that. To win over Nicole and hope she'll repay her debt sooner, Emma agrees to all her demands. She sits around, waiting in the karaoke bar while Nicole enjoys her night. The next day, Ginny receives an exciting offer from a publisher interested in turning her blog novel into a book, thanks to its positive feedback. Even better, a film studio offers $200,000 for the movie rights. As the 10-day deadline arrives, Frank yells at Emma, ready to fire her. Just then, Nicole walks in, saying she was planning to come by and pay her debt but threatens to change her mind if Emma is fired. Frank, seeing this, has no choice but to back down. Not only that, Nicole insists that Emma handle all future contracts with her company, saving Emma's job. Grateful, Emma thanks Nicole and tells her to come to her for any future problems. That evening, Ginny shares the news about her novel with Pete and asks for his permission to publish it, as many of the details are based on him. Pete is surprised by his wife's hidden talent and stays up late reading the entire novel. The next day, he tells Ginny how much he enjoyed it and encourages her to publish it, saying he understands a lot more about their relationship after reading it. The following morning, little Henry wakes Kate up. Sensing that his parents might be heading toward a divorce, he tells her that if they do, he'll go live with his dad because he knows how much his mom loves him and won't leave his dad. Henry's innocent words ache in Kate's heart. Unsure of what to do, she turns to her father for guidance. He calls James over, and filled with guilt, James kneels down and apologizes. At first, Kate's father is furious and demands that James divorce his daughter immediately. But James begs him, using the reason that Henry will grow up without the full love of both parents. Hearing this, Kate's father reflects on how his own daughter grew up without a mother and softens. Meanwhile, after receiving the book royalties, Ginny decides to spend. The first thing she does is fix their stuck door and upgrade it with an electronic lock. Then, she takes Pete shopping, buying everything she has wanted for a long time. Later, Kate's father arranges to meet with Anna. He speaks to her gently, surprising her. He acknowledges her feelings for James but points out that she has put them in the wrong person. As a father himself, he shares how heartbroken Anna's own parents would be if they knew the pain she is enduring. His kindness somehow touches Anna. Emma visits another client to collect a debt and discovers they are stuck with a lot of defective products and don't want to pay for them. Emma wants to take the products back for inspection, but they refuse. Frustrated, she takes photos of the items and goes to the technical department. The person in charge confirms there are no defects, but Emma thinks this is odd. Meanwhile, after hearing that Ginny received a large sum of money, Dave asks her for some. Ginny happily transfers him immediately. Pete is worried about Ginny. He thinks she should be more careful with her spending. She just got the book money and has already splurged on various things. Emma meets Nicole and gives her a birthday gift bought with her small commission. Although Nicole pretends not to like it, she is secretly pleased. Dave, playing matchmaker again, tells Kate that James is a good husband who loves his family. He suggests that James may have strayed because Kate has been busy with the tea company and hasn't given him enough attention. Dave adds that James often played games for a few minutes on his way home to improve his mood before seeing Kate and Henry. After what Dave says, Kate starts to blame herself. She admits to Emma that she was wrong for not letting James share the burden and for always handling everything herself. She still has feelings for him and feels embarrassed, but Emma reassures her that only Kate knows what they've been through, and no one else can judge. The next day, Ginny arrives with food to celebrate her book signing. She tells Kate that she's rich now and reassures her not to worry because she's there for her. With good friends like Ginny and Emma around, Kate feels much better. Emma goes back to the client's warehouse to ask more questions. This time, the manager admits that a former employee from Emma's company faked an order. That employee promised the client that they would fulfill their targets, and once the company settled the accounts, they could return the products. However, after finishing the task, the employee disappeared, leaving the manager confused about how to handle the situation. Now, this issue falls on the shoulders of debt collectors like Emma. Emma brings the issue about the fake orders to Jenny. Jenny warns her not to investigate further because she thinks that Frank, the sales director, might be behind the scheme. Just as Jenny finishes her warning, Frank calls Emma into his office. He tries to fire her under the pretext that she's not fit for the job. Emma quickly realizes that Frank wants to get rid of her to cover up the fake orders, so she confronts him directly. She accused him of allowing a former employee to create fraudulent orders. She threatens to report him to the higher-ups. Angry Frank dares her to report him, yelling and threatening her, saying no one would believe her. Despite being scared, Emma stands her ground. She knows she's in the right, and Frank is just a corrupt man trying to intimidate her into silence. Emma calmly tells him that she sacrificed everything to be back to Shanghai, and since her contract is for 3 months, she will stay for those 3 months and take him down. After leaving Frank's office, Emma feels shaky but reassures herself to stay strong and push forward. Meanwhile, Ginny makes a surprising decision to quit her job and focus on writing full-time, leaving Pete in shock. Despite the suddenness of it all, Pete supports her decision. On the other side, Anna texts James saying she's about to fly back to Beijing and wants him to come see her the last time. To her surprise, it's not James who shows up at the airport but Kate. Kate tells Anna that even for something like this, James doesn't have the courage to face her and had asked Kate to come instead. Kate knows Anna is still holding out hope, and came to test if James really cared. Anna hadn't even bought a ticket, but Kate had bought one for her, making it clear that James had fully moved on. Anna believes her love for James is fate, but Kate explains that the first time James gave her a band-aid, it was actually one Kate had packed. Since Henry often got cuts, James always carried some. Anna also loves the fireworks James designs, but what she doesn't know is that Kate and James built their career together over the past 10 years. Kate challenges Anna to think about whether she loves James or the traces of another woman's life on him. In the end, Anna realizes the truth. She admits to Kate that she admires her, but Kate doesn't want to hear it. She simply says goodbye and leaves. When outside, Kate reconsiders and returns to the airport. This time, she buys the earliest ticket and decides to go on a spontaneous trip. Meanwhile, James, unable to reach Kate, goes to Ginny and Emma to ask where she is. Ginny angrily scolds him, while Emma is more reserved, calmly telling him to stop worrying about Kate and start reflecting on how badly he's treated her. Kate, now in an unfamiliar city, enjoys her time wandering around and exploring as if she's single again. That night, she sits in a bar, lighting matches one after the other, watching the small flame flicker before blowing them out. A young man approaches Kate at the bar. For years, she has dedicated herself entirely to her husband and son, but tonight, she makes a different choice. She decides to let the young man flirt with her, allowing herself to feel a moment of joy and lightheartedness. In a symbolic act of letting go, she removes her wedding ring and drops it into the melting candle wax. Despite the brief encounter, Kate returns to her hotel alone. There, she listens to the voicemail messages James has left, desperately pleading for her to let him know she's safe. But Kate doesn't want to respond. Instead, she quietly cries, feeling the weight of everything she's gone through. As she stares up at the ceiling, she thinks of the stained glass artwork James had created to symbolize their family's love. Suddenly, Kate jumps up and books a flight back to Shanghai, set to leave in just 40 minutes. She rushes into a taxi, and the driver warns her that they might not make it in time, but Kate remains hopeful. She thinks she can start over with James, erasing all the pain and betrayal and rebuilding their relationship from scratch, but when she arrives at the airport, Kate spots fireworks on a billboard, and something inside her changes. Fireworks, once a symbol of love between her and James, now only remind her of his betrayal, the lies, and the heartbreak. Realizing she can't go back, Kate changes her mind. She decides not to board the flight after all. As she steps outside the airport, she runs into the same taxi driver who had dropped her off earlier, and she brings Kate back to the hotel. Kate decides to call her two best friends to let them know she's safe and that they don't need to worry. She plans to stay in the city for a few days, enjoying some time away from her duties as a wife and mother. At work, due to Frank's orders, Emma is shunned by her colleagues, and even Jenny struggles to talk to her as comfortably as before. But Emma isn't one to back down. She calls on employees who know about Frank's embezzlement to send her any evidence they have, even anonymously. After collecting enough proof, Emma takes a USB drive to the company's investigation department. Frank, realizing he's being exposed, panics. He bans Emma from the office, but she stays persistent. Continuing her debt collection work and vowing to take Frank down, Emma comes up with a solution for the client's excess inventory, convincing Nicole to buy it as clearance stock. Having worked at Miss Hill, Emma knows how liquidation deals can benefit both sides. Nicole agrees, seeing the logic in Emma's plan. That night, on her way home, Frank confronts Emma, threatening her and even trying to bribe her to keep quiet. But Emma stands her ground, pushes him away, and returns home, still shaken. Shortly after, she gets a call from Mr. Wei, who asks to meet the next day. When they meet, Mr. Wei informs Emma that Frank has been arrested for investigation. He praises Emma for her bravery in standing up to Frank, someone who had been a long-standing problem. He also acknowledges her efforts in helping the client clear their excess stock. The next day, just as Kate and James are about to sign their divorce papers, James receives a call. There's been an accident at the fireworks factory, 2 workers have died, and 3 others are injured. Kate rushes back to handle the crisis. Ironically, the explosion was caused by the very same blue fireworks she had always warned James about, but he never listened. Kate decides to use all the company's funds to compensate the victims and their families. Meanwhile, James, as usual, leaves everything for Kate to manage. He sits in a corner, muttering that both the company and he are finished. Kate handles everything she can, but this time, James has to take responsibility. James watches Henry from afar at his preschool one last time before turning himself into the police. Meanwhile, Pete is shocked to discover that Ginny used most of her earnings from her book sales to buy a house for his mother in the countryside so she wouldn't have to rent anymore. Ginny and Emma rush to Kate's side when they hear about her family's situation. Kate tells them she plans to sell her house to help resolve the issue. The lawyer advises that if she can negotiate with the victims and their families, James's sentence might be reduced. So, Kate is prepared to sell everything she can to offer a fair settlement. Ginny visits her parents, and her mother heard about Ginny bought a house for her in-law feel a bit offended. Ginny explains that Pete had used his savings to buy a home for the 2 of them, so now that she has the money, she wants to support him. She also adds that their family isn't as financially strained as Pete's. Pete, overhearing the conversation from outside, feels incredibly lucky to have married such a kind and thoughtful wife. Nicole offers Emma a job at her company, saying she's open to considering Emma for any position she wants. However, Emma declines, explaining that after what happened with Frank, she's afraid the next time, it could be her getting fired. Nicole reassures her, saying Emma needs to be more confident, reminding her that she's been doing great work and has nothing to fear. Meanwhile, Kate is running around, taking care of one issue after another. Seeing his daughter carry so much burden, Kate's father feels heartbroken, watching her again carry everything on her shoulder. Not long after, Ginny's book is finally published, and she has the launch event for her first novel. At the same time, Emma's 3-month work period comes to an end, and she meets with Mr. Wei. He is very pleased with her performance over the last 3 months and keeps his promise by offering her the role of store manager at Miss Hill. However, Emma declines. Her confidence has grown during these 3 months, and she's realized her own potential. She shares with Mr. Wei her desire to study abroad to further develop herself. Although surprised, Mr. Wei acknowledges her talent and respects her decision. Meanwhile, the house that Kate once cared for is now up for sale. As she reflects on the happy family memories they shared there, her heart aches. She bakes a cake and brings it to Ms. Wang as a farewell gift, since she'll soon be moving. Ms. Wang, who has heard about Kate's family troubles, expresses her sympathy and even confesses that the Monet water lilies painting in her home is actually a fake. Kate smiles as it no longer matters to her. When she comes back home, Kate encounters the village chief. After hearing about her family's struggles, the entire tea village has gathered donations to help her, offering whatever they can. At first, Kate hesitates, knowing the villagers are not well off, but the chief insists, asking her not to reject their kindness. Holding the bundle of small bills they manage to collect, Kate feels deeply moved. The chief encourages her to stay strong before leaving. As part of her move, Kate also decides to withdraw Henry from the elite kindergarten she had worked so hard to get him into. Innocently, Henry still believes his father is just away on a business trip and asks if he can call him. Kate visits James in the prison, where, thanks to the settlement with the victims, he is only facing 3 years in prison. Even though it hasn't been long, James already looks worn down and mentally exhausted. Kate tells him that everything has been arranged. The fireworks company has been shut down, all employees have received their wages and severance before the new year, and her tea company is still running well enough to support her and Henry. James is ashamed because once again Kate is the one carrying all the responsibility. He understands that the best thing he can do for her is to agree to the divorce, so she can be free. Both of them fight back tears, mourning the loss of the happy family they once had. James apologizes through the glass and then returns to his cell. Afterward, Kate meets with Emma and Ginny for a meal. Emma shares her plans to study in Edinburgh, and her friends are thrilled for her. During their meal, they notice Kevin at the restaurant, and the sight of him makes them uncomfortable. Emma decides that it should be Kevin who feels uncomfortable, so she approaches him to say hello. Kevin is taken aback by how much Emma seems to have changed. Kevin tells Emma that he's broken up with Bella and hints that he wants to get back together with her. He invites her again to Iceland to see the northern lights. Emma laughs. Kevin clearly hasn't changed at all, still using the same tired pickup lines. She responds by saying she'd rather explore the world on her own. Emma returns to her table feeling delighted, laughing, and joking with her 2 best friends. Dave decides to move to another city to start a new business with some friends. Ginny and Pete see him off, and on the way back, Ginny hints that she's pregnant. This time, Pete is overjoyed. They're both ready to become parents. As for Kate, she finally achieves part of what she's always wanted. Her tea company is starting to gain some recognition. She brings her father and Henry to the tea village to visit the villagers and the tea fields, and they spend a peaceful evening together, watching the night sky full of stars.